Movies were about telling great stories, and you didn't need a political lecture every time you hit play. Great entertainment still exists, it's just getting harder to find. Even the biggest streaming platforms leave audiences disappointed. That's why there's Studio TST, pure entertainment, real comedy, independent films, bold creators, movies, comedy, music, and more, and the home of fearless sketch comedy. That show tonight, entertainment the way you want it. Funny, creative, unapologetic, and agenda-free. Studio TST, the future of entertainment starts here. Join Studio TST today for just $5 a month.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And good Friday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into the Weekend News Roundup. It's been a week for me. Nothing like having to redesign and reset up your entire system because you got a new machine to do all the broadcast work on. But that's partly because my plan was, ladies and gentlemen, I thought I had gotten a big enough desk that I could have one machine for broadcasting and another for all the other stuff that I do. And this desk was not nearly how it measured when I looked at it in the store by the time it got to me. So we're arguing about that, but it also means I've spent the last week configuring an entirely new system. So I'm just laughing with Amy in the behind-the-scenes chat that I'd forgotten to turn on the auto switch from the audio ad rolls, and I was like, "Oh, I forgot again." Anyway, so we're here, we're live, and Michael Arnold in the chats want to know what the agenda is today. I have no idea because it's been a week for me. But the good news is I do have it about 85% yesterday, and I thought it'd be like a really quick fix to come in and fix the rest of it because it's just moving some of the stuff to different sliders so I have more control. And then I realized that because I have a C adapter, because for some reason Rodecaster likes to use USB-C, and nobody in the world but Apple uses USB-C. I had to get a USB-A to USB-C data cable because while it works, it can't do a lot of the new fancy stuff it can do on my new Windows 11 computer that my Windows 10 computer couldn't do before. So for everybody who's been looking for me this week, that's because I've been banging my head against this new desk trying to figure out how and why these things won't talk to each other anymore. But I got it narrowed down for now, well enough for us to at least do some of my work today, since today's a pretty busy day and I already missed our other busiest day of the week, which was Wednesday. Anyway, enough of me rattling on about that. It looks like it's just going to be me and Amy for today. And we are going to try to talk about as much of the current news stuff that's going on as possible. And me trying to talk, take two. But before we do all that, good afternoon, Miss Amy. How are you?
Good afternoon. I am doing very well. I am happy that it is Friday. It is starting to rain again. We've had storms off and on all week. So hopefully the new Wi-Fi extender works and things hold out this time.
Yeah, so far so good.
So far so good.
So you still being your usual typinator self?
I am still being my usual typinator self over there. I know I've got 21 today. I've got to write one more VIP post after we get off the air, and then I'm good. And then I've got to go bake banana bread for my son's Italy fundraiser tomorrow. And we've got more bread we got to bake next week. And then I think we're done for now. Maybe. I don't know.
Fun times.
It's just going to, school starts next week. It's going to be insane because he's going to senior year. My youngest is in 8th grade, going to be homeschooling him. So yay.
So in about 2 weeks, expect to see completely crazy, disheveled, discombobulated Amy on.
Right. I'm glad I'm blonde because you can't see the gray hairs that are starting to form.
Yeah, see, it's interesting side note. I used to be toe-headed blonde when I was a kid, then it started darkening up. When I first got old enough to start trying to grow a beard, I got the hair colors that look like this stuff up here.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had a bunch of really fine toe-headed blonde hairs coming in until they turned gray. So when I tried to grow a beard before they turned gray, I looked like I was on crack. So I never grew one. And now you can actually see that I can grow hair. So, So I've had a beard for about 7 years now, I guess. Much to the chagrin of my now ex-wife, because she's like, "You look too much like your dad with your beard." I'm like, "And?"
Yeah, right. Sons look like their dad.
You're telling me you have a problem with how my dad looks? Because that's pretty much this face. Probably another reason why she's my ex-wife. Just saying. Wait, did I say that out loud? My bad.
I didn't hear a thing. Get a piece of
anyway,
speaking of.
So since I have been doing a mad dash trying to play catch up this week while I have been doing all this reconfiguring, what is going on in the news that you want to talk about while I pull up a couple things that I...
All right. Well, one of my favorite stories, not my story of the week, but my favorite story that I wrote about today so far was the Carmelo Anthony trial. First of all, we've got James Tallarico in Texas who says the trial was a travesty. It was a miscarriage of justice. No, it wasn't. Carmelo Anthony stabbed Austin Metcalf in the chest. They brought like 35 witnesses to the first trial who all pretty much said the same thing. Carmelo Anthony showed up, stayed in the tent where he wasn't welcome. Austin Metcalf pushed him out, and then that's when Carmelo Anthony stabbed him in the chest. Well, now, according to Fox News, with Carmelo Anthony's new case, new attorneys, they're pushing for a new trial. And that's being heard before the court. I believe they have to have a decision by Monday about whether or not they're going to grant this kid a new trial. And there's new information that would come out in this trial that I can't believe his defense team would be okay with allowing into a new trial. I guess in the first trial, they had a gentleman's agreement not to talk about these things, specifically things that show Carmelo Anthony's state of mind. There were a couple of text messages, I guess the morning of the stabbing. Carmelo Anthony's girlfriend had broken up with him, and she had told an assistant principal that morning that Anthony was stalking her, like just a few hours before the track meet. And Anthony texted someone that said, "I'm low-key on the verge." His state of... Also, another series of texts kind of talking about his obsession with guns and knives, including one where he says, when I stab somebody, this is a direct quote, when I stab somebody, I'm going to lick their blood off the blade. I can see why the defense didn't want this in the first trial. And apparently the agreement was mutual. The prosecution said they wouldn't bring this stuff in. The defense also said then they wouldn't bring in some stuff from Austin Metcalf's past where he apparently spray painted some racist graffiti on buildings when he was in 6th grade or something like that, and had a gentleman's agreement. Carmelo Anthony, as we all know, didn't testify in his own defense in the trial. Well, now this new defense team is saying, well, he didn't testify because he was pressured into not testifying because of this gentleman's agreement. And if the trial he does get a new trial, it sounds like the prosecution is more than willing to bring this in. And even if the defense tries to bring up the things about Austin Metcalf, according to this lawyer that they talked to on Fox News, a former prosecutor in Texas, the defense would have to prove that Carmelo Anthony knew about the spray painting stuff Austin Metcalf did in 6th grade. So that would have been what, 12? Well, my son's 13. So you're looking at like 10, 11 years old. So 6 years before this incident even happened, the defense would have to prove that Carmelo Anthony knew Austin Metcalf spray painted these things. Meanwhile, they've got actual text messages from the day of the stabbing and right before the stabbing that really make Carmelo Anthony's state of mind look much worse than it already did in the trial that took place already. I mean, Anthony was already sentenced to 35 years. There are people who think he shouldn't have gotten anything. There were people who said that they would have let him off simply because he's a black boy who stabbed a white kid, which is a terrifying thought. And especially to have a candidate running for Senate who says that this was a miscarriage of justice after everything the court heard, after everything the jury heard, because there weren't black jurors, but there were Hispanics, there were Indians. This was not an all-white jury. And the jurors that were struck were largely struck because they had said, we're going to acquit this kid because of the color of his skin. So I don't know what the new judge is. This is actually a different judge as well. The judge that originally heard the case recused himself at the request of the defense team, is my understanding. So we'll see what this judge says on Monday, if they're going to grant him a new trial. Fox News also talked to Austin Metcalf's dad, who basically said, bring it on. We will call every witness again. The facts of the case have not changed. They are on our side, and we will do it again. So it'll be interesting. I already took the cap off. Sorry, interesting to see what happens on Monday. I hope that the judge doesn't make the family go through this again, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. It's like one of the ones that I hadn't really been paying attention to until today was, and I didn't realize it took this long for this crazy woman to get a damn trial in the first place. The chick that murdered her own kids because a male voice in her head told her to.
That's on my list of things to talk about today too. So that's a perfect segue.
I had no idea that in the great state of everybody there is a masshole. You actually the prosecution still has to prove that she's the crazy one. Not that the defense has to prove that she's crazy or prove, that she was not of sound mind. The prosecution has to prove that 1, she's not crazy, and 2, she knew what she was doing. That just seems insane. Well, not that no pun intended, but that seems insane to me.
Right. It is an interesting burden of proof, but here's what we do know about that case. Lindsay Clancy was a labor and delivery nurse who in January 2023 and up to following the birth of her last child, who was born, he was 8 months old. So he would have been May-ish of 2022, this baby was born. And following that birth, she really struggled with her mental health, postpartum depression. She's claiming postpartum psychosis. She was on a shit ton of medications, including Seroquel, which can cause hallucinations. I have given that to patients both in the acute care setting and in the hospice setting to help with things like anxiety, et cetera, et cetera. But the day in question was actually sounded like it was a pretty good day. She wasn't having emotional issues, but she did text her husband and say, I didn't make dinner, go pick something up. He did. And in that 25 minutes while he went to pick up dinner, she took her children to the basement. They were 8, 5, and 8 months old. Or sorry, excuse me, 5, 3, and 8 months old, and strangled them. And when her husband came home, he found her laying down outside because after she strangled them, she tried to slit her own throat, cut her wrist, and she threw herself out a second-story window. ended up being paralyzed permanently from the waist down. So she is now in a wheelchair. And it's taken this long. It's been 3 years for them to get to a trial. But the defense is not disputing that she did it. Lindsay Clancy says she did it. What this trial will ultimately determine is, was she of sound mind when she did it? Either way, it sounds like she is going to either prison for life or an institution for life, and that's where she belongs. But the crazy thing, and I've been on the internet long enough, it shouldn't shock me anymore, is that there are women out there who are not only defending her and saying, I've been there, which, okay, CPS needs to go and check on your kids like today, but that she's innocent and that her husband, Patrick Clancy, is actually the guilty party. There is video evidence from CVS Pharmacy because he stopped and picked up something for one of his kids. I met Miralax or something for one of the kids. So at the time of the murders, he was not home. Doesn't matter. The 911 call has been embargoed by the judge. The public has not heard it. I don't know if we ever will, but the jurors and the journalists who were in the courtroom have. And I actually had retweeted a really interesting video from Susie O'Connell, who was a journalist with Boston's and NBC branch. And she was in the courtroom and she said, Patrick Clancy was not acting on this 911 call. He was very upset. She talked about how in the 1980s, when all of her friends were dying of AIDS during the AIDS crisis, going and telling someone's mom that her son had died. And she said that the sound that mother made has stuck with her for 40 years. And that's the same sound Patrick Clancy made. None of that matters to these crazy women. They are convinced he hired a body double to go to CVS while he killed the kids and tried to kill his wife. And they have raised almost $1 million in a GoFundMe for this woman. Oh, wait, it gets even better. Candace Owens is now on the Lindsay Clancy is innocent bandwagon because she has found the next grift and is going to capitalize on it. But she did it. The defense is not disputing that. Obviously, I am not surprised at all. That Candace Owens, I'm only surprised that she didn't jump on this sooner. But Lindsay Clancy did it. The defense is not saying she didn't do it. They're just trying to determine where she will be locked up for the rest of her life. And her husband obviously divorced her, ended up getting remarried and trying to move on with his life. And for some people, apparently that's proof that he's guilty, which proves it's the same mentality that they're using against Erica Kirk, where she's smiling, she's going out. How dare she do that? She's clearly not grieving properly. Or she's not taking care of her kids. Grief is a complicated thing, and especially when homicide is involved. The whole story is just insane. I'm not sure when we're expected to get the verdict on this trial, but it's going on this week, and hopefully we'll hear about it soon, although Massachusetts seems to be a little slow.
You can say it the right way. Massachusetts is retarded.
Well, that too. That's the state that they basically just said it was okay to kill your kid seconds before she was born. So, and I would argue the reason why so many women are gung-ho for Lindsay Clancy is because we've told them that their kids are disposable. Your kid is in your womb and you don't want it, you can kill it. And I think that's a big reason why she's getting a lot of the support she's getting, because these women are freaking crazy. Yes, as Alan Ray says, yeah, thank you, pulling that up. We didn't have near these many issues when we had asylum. Yep.
Yeah, except much like a lot of the things that come back and bite us in the ass, who was in charge when we got rid of the asylums? Anybody remember? Because I do.
That was Ronald Reagan. That was the biggest mistake of his presidency, as far as I am concerned.
The other big Republican mistake that nobody wants to talk about? Richard Nixon taking us off the gold standard. That was the dumbest thing that ever could have possibly been done. And I guarantee you that was one of those Democrats promised him something if he did it, and it probably didn't ever happen. And I keep looking at Biden's presidency going, if he had been president when Nixon was president, they probably would have put him in front of a firing squad. Because, Watergate's like small potatoes compared to the things that we're finding out about all these different things now. It's just nuts to me. There's stories every other day about different embedded people within our government that are basically committing the textbook version of treason, and nothing gets done, nothing changes. It's just so much fun.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, make Valium great again. There are days when my objections to putting lithium in the water supply aren't as strong as they normally are. And yeah,
Mm.
but speaking as a woman who has had 3 babies, and when my youngest was born, they were 6, 4, and then a newborn. They were all C-sections, so there was not just the tiredness and all of that. There was a lot of pain, and with my youngest, we learned I'm allergic to the oxycodone part of Percocet, so I couldn't take pain meds about a week after delivery. I was strictly ibuprofen, Tylenol to manage the pain. Never once in all of that did I imagine hurting my children. Ever. Like, the thought of I would kill somebody for them. You hurt my kids, I will hurt you. I will lay down my life for them. But the thought of hurting them never crossed my mind. And this notion that, oh, all these women see themselves in Lindsay Clancy, you bitches, you're nuts. You're nuts. Because there is nothing in there to see, there is nothing in there to idolize, there is nothing in there to look up to. Do I have sympathy for her? Yes, limited sympathy. Given the list of meds she was on and what her mom has said, her husband has said, there was clearly something going on there. But at the end of the day, she killed her kids and needs to face the consequences for that, whether it's prison or the nut house. Either way, she is not a good person. She killed her children, and there's nothing like redeeming or noble or relatable in that at all.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm a dude, but I have like zero sympathy. I just none. I don't even care that she was potentially listening to a voice in her head that told her to kill her kids, because yeah, I grew up with parents who basically told me every time I pissed them off that they were going to kill me and bury me in the backyard until God I died. So, you know,
I brought you into this world. I'm going to take you out. I can't tell you how many times I heard that one, but
at least once a week.
Right. Exactly. But, and because I haven't listened to the entire trial, like I haven't been able to listen to the entire trial, I can't say for sure which way I'd roll. But the fact that she like told her husband to go get dinner kind of to me is like, it's not like he said, I'm going to go get dinner. And then she took that opportunity. She kind of set the stage for her to be alone with those kids.
Yeah, that's my thing. To me, that starts getting into premeditation, and I'm sorry to be able to plead insanity. Premeditation cannot be a thing, in my opinion. Now, granted, because it's it's the masshole state and everybody's retarded. She may. I mean, because we didn't. And I keep saying this about Massachusetts, but nobody expected the crazy chick in Texas to get off, and she did. So, who knows?
You're gonna remind me which crazy chick in Texas we're talking about.
I'll have to look up her name in a minute because I don't remember it. But she was accused of the same thing a few years ago, and the same psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever that testified in her defense just testified in this new one's defense. And yeah, so everybody's like, "Ooh, that may give her some brownie points."
And Andrew brings up a good point. If my son's wife comes to me one day and says, hey, I'm not doing well and I feel like I'm going to harm the kids, I'm taking those kids. Come sleep over by grandma for a little while until mommy starts to feel better. Mommy's not feeling well. Let's make sure mommy is stable before something happens. And I'm sure they feel tremendous guilt. But yeah, like somebody should have intervened. Casey Anthony, wasn't she in Florida? Yeah, she's guilty as sin too, and the fact that they keep trying to make her a thing because she's got the right politics is disgusting. But yeah, Casey Anthony, I think, was Florida, not Texas, right?
Andrea Yates was the one in Texas. Casey Anthony was Florida, I believe.
Yeah, Anthony Yates, and then Susan Smith was South Carolina. One of the Carolinas, I think South Carolina. She was the one that drove the van into the river with the kids, and I think she tried to blame it on a carjacker. But that was, oh God, I was little, well, relatively little. Like I was in elementary school when that happened. And I still remember it. So 30 some odd years later, even
Now,
then
yeah,
I knew that was fucked up.
yeah. So the Yates case, the one that I was trying to do a callback for before my brain said, "Hey, we're not doing that." Actually, was she was initially convicted of capital murder in 2002, but the conviction was overturned at her 2006 retrial. She was found not guilty by reason of insanity based on severe mental illness, including this new wonderful catchphrase, postpartum psychosis. And yes, the doctor who testified in her retrial, who basically convinced the people that she was nuts, is Dr. Philip Resnick, and he's the guy that just testified for the other chick today. Hmm. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing, and this is me from a guy's perspective about the husband. At some point, she was probably giving off some sort of signals that maybe he should have been like, "Hey, mom, you want to take the kids for a few days?" Something, it's going along like everything was fine. But yeah, I don't know.
Right. Right. And maybe maybe it's hard, maybe to admit my wife has a problem and might hurt our kids, that, the wrong person hears that. And I get it. You could probably lose your kids, like full custody of your kids, because some CPS official with a trumped up sense of self-importance chimes in, but something should have been done. And the hindsight is 2020. Of course, but like with terrorism, if you see something, say something. If you feel like your friend who just had a baby is not doing well, say something.
I mean, yeah, seriously. Just, I mean, check on your friends. Make sure they're not having a hard time. I mean, 'cause this is basically the decade for mental illness, dude, because it seems like everybody's on some sort of medication for something.
Mhm.
Kind of nuts.
Yeah, and right, and I'm not gonna knock medications because I have been on them in the past. When given appropriately and dosed appropriately and managed appropriately, they can help. I don't think that they should be a long-term solution if you can avoid it, but there also is such a thing as overprescribing, and she was on Seroquel, like I mentioned, Ativan, which is also known as lorazepam, which is an anti-anxiety. She was just on this huge cocktail of medicines, and they interact with each other. They interact. You take vitamins or supplements on top of that, you can have an interaction. A while ago, my doctor put me on some meds to try to help me lose weight, and they gave me such severe anxiety that like I couldn't function, and we'd stop taking them and it went away. Like meds can really mess with your head. Like I was almost to the point of like I was paranoid and my family was going to abandon me. It was really scary because I knew everything I was thinking wasn't true, but you can't, like, your mind is still thinking those thoughts.
Yeah, and I mean, you do have to be careful with that kind of stuff. So I don't know if maybe she was on some form of medication that may have exacerbated the situation. But either way, this whole the devil made me do it because a male voice in my head told me I needed to kill my children. And then the scariest thing was I guess she was talking to like a chaplain of some sort or something, and she was talking about, and the chaplain said, "Well, you knew it was wrong to do that, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, but I thought my kids were safer."
Jeez Louise.
So yeah, that was one of those things where I was like, "Oh, so you thought?" In the other thing that I thought was interesting, in one of the prosecution's redirects today, or I guess it was recross, I don't know, not a lawyer, but they basically, because they had pointed out that none of her medical records or anything else had ever talked about any type of pathological ideation towards hurting anybody else, just fear of self-harm. And
Right.
and when the person that was being questioned said, "Well, a lot of times that happens, especially with postpartum psychosis, because they're afraid they're going to take their kids away." So, and this part got stricken from the record, which is why I'm talking about it right now, because the prosecutor comes back and says, "Okay, so it's better that your kids wind up dead than somebody might take them from you." Yeah.
Right.
That entire exchange got stricken.
I can see why. And Andrew brought up a good thing. I'm surprised her doctors didn't have her committed. It's really hard to have somebody committed. Like it there was just a killer, or not a killer, but the guy in North Carolina, I think he was in Charlotte, the black guy who was going around beating up white women and videotaping it. His sister talked to the media and said, we have tried to get him committed multiple times and they just won't do it. It's really, really hard unless somebody actually hurts themselves or others to get them committed. Even the doctors have a hard time doing that. So that is something else we need to revisit and change. I'm not saying go back to the days where you could go, grandma's off a rocker, let's put her in a home so we can take our house kind of thing. There's a happy medium. There is a middle of the road between we're going to let all these crazy people like walk around and do everything, and we're going to put everybody that we don't like in the asylums. Let's find that path, because what we're doing right now is not working in any way, shape, or form.
No, Andrew, not unless the voices in your head are telling you to go find bourbon and tacos. Always listen to those voices, but not the ones that say crazy things.
Now I want bourbon and tacos. Darn you.
You're welcome.
Darn you. And it's not even Tuesday.
It's a long-running inside joke for me and Andrew. All right, so the one that kind of perked my ears up, the first one I wanted to talk about today, I don't know if anybody else is really talking about this yet, but when I started looking at the filing they hit Swalwell with, there may be some more there, because one of the specifications listed in the warrant was 18 USC 242.
Okay.
That's not a hey, you don't that's not a federal statute saying, hey, it's illegal to assault somebody. This actually concerns a person using or potentially using government authority or purporting to use that authority to willfully deprive someone of a federally protected right.
Okay.
So I think there may be some more there. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it was like false imprisonment while he was assaulting them. I don't know. I mean, I have to be careful because they haven't really told us yet why they listed that in the warrant. But that's not just a hey, you committed assault and that's illegal. That's a you may have deprived somebody of a constitutionally protected right while in a position of power charge.
Yeah.
So, that puts a whole new layer on this thing, because hypothetically, this isn't just an allegations that we can say has been established or anything, but imagine this: a public official telling a staffer, do this or I'll use my position to destroy your career. Using government staff or resources to facilitate misconduct, retaliating through official channels against somebody who resisted him, or otherwise leveraging government authority in connection with an alleged conduct. These are the things that could fall under that category. And it's just, I'm curious because if it was just a simple assault case, this would be like bringing a bazooka to a knife fight. That's a big charge.
Yeah, and they've met him at the airport and seized some of his electronics. That was in San Francisco, and they apparently searched his house in DC too. So maybe Swalwell is in some deep doo-doo. It would be nice to see somebody face consequences for their actions, and it couldn't happen to a nicer asshole, because this is the guy that promised to strip ICE agents of their ability to drive in the state of California. Not just as ICE agents, but as residents of California, who promised to put them in prison and make their lives a living hell.
So yeah, just to reframe this for the lawyers, the interesting part of all of this, and especially the Swalwell warrant, isn't just that federal investigators are looking at the sexual misconduct allegation. The statute that we've been talking about that's being attached to this investigation, at least reportedly, this falls under a federal color of civil rights statute. So this is the exact thing that Democrats say Republicans do all the time, infringing on people's civil rights. That's exactly what this potential charge is about. So I'll be curious to find out what comes up from that.
Every accusation is a confession when it comes to the Democrats.
Well, yeah. I mean, I always say every accusation is more projection, because even if they haven't done it yet, they're still thinking that they would, so we would. But yeah, I when I saw that today, I was like, wait, that's a really specific kind of charge. So that kind of made my ears perk a little bit. So but again, I hadn't really been paying attention much this week, so I didn't know if I was coming to the table late with that or not, but I hadn't really seen it being referenced anywhere else.
No, because that was one that I even missed, so.
Fun times.
Oh, just a thrill a minute for sure.
So this one kind of ties back into one of the stories we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, because apparently this is the new pastime for Democrats that are being called onto the carpet, or may even be the new, summer accessory in DC. Because not only did Anthony Fauci plead the fifth 111 times, apparently the Act Blue co-founder also took the fifth.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that wasn't the first time Act Blue employees did that. A few months ago, hundreds of times they pled the fifth during a congressional hearing.
So yeah, like I said, apparently pleading the fifth is now Washington's hottest summer accessory because everybody's doing it. And look, I get it from a legal perspective. Pleading the fifth does not mean that you can say, "Oh, they must be guilty." But I'm going to say this: aren't the Democrats always the one that? Well, if you don't have anything to hide, what are you afraid of them looking at your search history for?
Exactly.
So,
No one is above the law.
If you're not, well, yeah, that look at Eric Swalwell. He was one of the loudest ones chirping that crap, and now he's like, I probably should have kept my mouth shut. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. That's a low-flying plane, it sounds like.
It is. I opened the window. They're landing over the airport today, so
nice.
They're landing. I should say landing over my house because the airport is about 2 miles ish to my northeast. It's more fun when they take off. Then that's really loud.
Nice. So what else you got on your stack today?
Oh, I'm gonna try to share my screen and not screw this up, and you'll be happy to know that I changed to the dark mode to make everybody else happy. Let me see.
Oh, thank God. You were like burning my retinas last week.
I'm having a real hard time reading it, though. That's why I got the cheaters on. No, Amazon's starting this program, Amazon Air, where they're going to use drones, and they're planning on rolling it out to 500 cities by the end of this year to deliver within 30 minutes small, lightweight packages less than 5 pounds, just to expedite the process, get your materials to you quicker. Well, this was a woman in Richmond, Texas, who really wanted to get whatever this item was early on. And now, if I'm doing this right, it should work. This is what happened. And of course, the caption thanks to CBS kind of gives it away. But it's so great. It's just fantastic. Like you could not have, like, I saw that last night and I laughed for a good 5 minutes. But the thing is, I would not have just stood there and recorded it. Like, I would have walked around to the other side of the pool and, like, tried to do something, or I would have run to get my package, because while cardboard isn't, waterproof, obviously, you got a couple of seconds before it really starts to, like, soak in.
You would think.
You do. My son watches videos of these guys who rebuild, like, ships and stuff out of cardboard and then sink them. You've got a moment or two to, like, pluck it out of the water. I mean, like I said, it's raining here. I'm expecting a package from Amazon. The box will be wet, but usually what's inside of it will be dry for a little bit. So, like, move, lady, and, like, get your package out of the water. Amazon has said that, they're piloting this program. Things like this happen, but they're rare. Okay. I'm not too keen on the drone thing, but it also tells me that this whole panic about AI is going to take over and we're going to be living in, the Terminator. Probably not. Probably not. If they can't figure out how to.
If it does, you and I will be long gone by then. But the thing that drives me absolutely nuts about the AI stuff is the same people that are screaming and yelling about no data centers, no this, no that, are the same ones that have like 14 different streaming services, 5 different TVs, the newest phone, every gadget you could possibly plug into the internet. And then they're wondering why we need so many damn data centers.
Right. And I know that there are some conservatives who will disagree with me. I am not anti-data center. I'm not. I think we need to make sure that they are paying, for the utilities that they use, responsibly managing the water. But I think a lot of the anti-AI data center stuff is a Chinese psyop, because China really wants to control AI. They want to have the power of that. And that's where I'm like, we can't let them. I'm sorry. And that's where I'm wrong. I'm not voting for David Crowley. It's where I think he's right and Tom Tiffany is wrong. as far as the governor race here goes. I think we need to figure out a way to do data centers and do them responsibly, because we have to, like, this is the next space race. We need to beat China in the AI race, because not doing so has more serious consequences, including, I have long argued that TikTok is a Chinese psyop.
Oh, it is.
And that's why the algorithm shows people here what we see. You don't see that stuff in China. Their version of TikTok, whatever it's called, because it's not called TikTok, has a very strict algorithm that only lets the people see what the government wants them to see. Here, we get all of this crazy woke, trans, BLM, gay agenda bullshit, because China is trying to engage in psychological warfare. It's the reason why my kids, even now, aren't allowed on TikTok and never will be, because of what China does with the algorithms. So we want to win that, and we need to figure out a way to make that happen and message better on that, because we need the data centers and we need to win the AI race.
Yeah, I don't know, like a lot. So I've been doing a lot of research on this because I had planned on this past week doing a deep dive on the whole data center thing. Because here's what a lot of people don't talk about: a lot of these using too much power studies and doing bad things with your water table studies, those things were all done like a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
You got to realize in the technological world, a decade ago is about 4 generations for technology, because there's basically a new version of something, whether it's a new phone, new operating system, whatever the case may be, usually coming out about every 6 months. So a lot of what they've been the most concerned about is because these original data centers that started cropping up about 10 years ago, that they didn't know enough about how to make sure that they were responsibly, put it. I mean, there's some that I've seen that have come up now that are actually sending power back to the grid.
Mm-hmm. And there was one story I read earlier where the data center is paying half of this town's taxes. You need that.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
especially if you don't want to be the one paying for all the crap and you hate taxes in the first place, you want to get a business in there that's going to be able to say, "Oh, you mean half my tax burden just probably went away? Awesome."
right.
Now, of
Right.
course, the government will get in the way of that, just like they always do, and be like, "Well, since they're paying half, we're just going to make you pay another 5% or something." Of course, that'll be what happens. But yeah, it's just this whole thing of, and again, all the people that are screaming and yelling about how bad data centers are the primary reason we need data centers. Hell, nobody even go dates in person anymore till they swipe right on an app.
Right. Everything is data driven. Everything what we do right now is data driven. Like you said, the TV shows we watch, are my phone. It's all data centers drive that. And if you want to lose all of that, keep fighting the AI data center war. If you want China to limit what you see and what you can watch, keep fighting against the data centers. I think it's a very big mistake that the anti data center conservatives are making.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just insane to me, because the one thing, and you've already made the comparison, but the one thing that I want to reiterate is this is basically the space race for the digital age, because whoever gets there first and does it the right way, they're gonna run everything. And the problem that we have when we come up against places like China is they're a lot like Iran. They will let their people starve to get these data centers built.
Mm-hmm.
They will redivert all their power. They will steal all their water. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time that we're like, well, we have to do this, dude, we are basically in a fight for our lives with these people. And if you don't believe me, just look at all the stuff that's came out about China's involvement in the Iran war that's starting to trickle out now that they're finally
and China's involvement in the fractured relationship we have with South Korea. Because we all know last week or earlier this week, Trump said we're going to roll back joint military exercises with South Korea. That wasn't done in isolation. Hi, Zelda. That wasn't done in isolation. That was like the latest step in a series of socioeconomic and political strain that's happening between the two countries. South Korea has been attacking U.S. based businesses operating over there. to the point where some of them, Yahoo and Ford, I believe it was, even left the country. I wrote about this for Town Hall. And this is opening up a door for China to get into South Korea. And it looks like South Korea is following Beijing's playbook on how to isolate and attack these American countries. So China is a big problem, and we need to address it because they see us as the socio-political enemy. They've sent drones and balloons to spy on us. Start acting like it. I mean, I wrote about this when I was back at Twitchy. Hundreds of Chinese spies have abused our open border and come across the southern border. What are they doing in this country? They own farmland near military bases. There was that story last week or the week before where the Chinese guy who was a trained sniper bought a property within sight line of the White House. Can we pretend that I don't want my grandkids to have to speak Mandarin? Can we please take China seriously and beat them at this game?
Please.
Please, I'm begging you, please.
Because, when they finally create the perfect female robot that will both do laundry and make me a sandwich, I don't want it trying to stab me in my sleep, so we can't have that made in China.
Right. We can't. Just no. I mean, we're already, they're trying to ban Chinese GPS in vehicles from America because of the technology and what it could be used to spy on. We really need to take China seriously.
Hey, guess what? That's another Nixon callback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, why does it always seem like it's the Republicans that wind up giving the Democrats everything they want?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You ever notice that?
That's always been the definition of bipartisanship. The Democrats get what they want and Republicans get fucked over.
It's just insane to me when you start to think about it, because like I said, I have been working, thanks to actually starting to thumb through your book a little bit when I have a few minutes here and there. You've inspired me, so I've started to put together my own book about some of how I think we got here. I keep looking at all this different stuff going, it was Reagan that gave amnesty. It was Nixon that got us off the gold standard. It was Nixon that started trying to, I think it was Nixon and then the guy that came after him that started working really hard to try to normalize relations with China, because they were this great big new country and they were like, oh, we could make a fortune. Yeah, you can for about 50 years or so, and then you start running into situations like we've got now. So, but that's just it. American foreign policy has always been so damn short-sighted. It's insane. Like, remember Taiwan? Remember?
Yeah, I remember Taiwan.
And when it was, there was, and it wasn't even. It's not even just America. It's like the entire Western civilization has no idea for long-term consequences. So let's lease a piece of territory from a communist country, which granted at the time I don't think they were communist quite yet. But then after they became communist, let's build it up, give them access to how all of our infrastructure works, and then eventually have to turn it back over.
Right.
Why?
I don't know. That's why I go back to what I've said about elections and Congress before. Picking the first 500 some odd people out of the phone book would make country run a lot better. Ooh, that was a big, I don't know if you heard that. That was a big clap of thunder.
Oh, yeah, no, I heard it.
Okay, all right.
I did, but I heard it.
Yeah, it was a big clap of thunder. So, no, the first 500 people out of the phone book would run this country better than the people we have elected. Most of the people we have elected right now.
And that's the thing that's driving me crazy. Look, I don't live in South Carolina, so I don't care who they're picking for their senator. But this whole thing of we need a professional politician to take that Senate seat. No, you don't. There was never supposed to be such a thing as a professional politician. These people were still supposed to be living within their own communities, working within their own communities, and then going to DC to take care of the important things, and then coming back home.
Yep.
It was only things like the train and then eventually the plane that made it possible for these people to live within the bubbles that they live in now. And I will tell you something else. When they moved the capital to Washington, D.C., it was because that was basically the geographical center of the country at that point. It isn't anymore. The capital has been moved before. It needs to be moved again, so these people that are living in this bubble that they've built for themselves can slowly watch it deflate, and as far as I'm concerned, go curl up in a ball and cry themselves to sleep.
Right. Then everybody says we need term limits to address the issues. We need age limits. I think no, we need to go back to a system where you are actually a public servant. That means no more of this benefits and pension bullshit, no more of this six-figure salary. You live and work in your district. You go to DC a couple of times a year to vote on important things. Then you get to go back home and live and work under the rules and the tax rates you force on the rest of us. Just like they exempted themselves from Obamacare. No more. And when you do that, a lot of the trash is going to take itself out because the people who actually want to serve, who actually care about this country, are the people who will step up and do that job because there's nothing in it for them besides serving the country. Right now, what we've got is a bunch of people who go to DC, get fucking rich by insider trading, and then come out and say, you guys need to give us more of your tax money because we want to pay for healthcare for 50 million illegal immigrants. No, just no. No, I mean, no. Our debt reached $40 trillion this week. We are broke. We cannot keep paying this. And I saw somebody, and I went off on him on Twitter. Republicans are going to have to admit we have to raise taxes. No. No. Fuck you and the horse you rode in on, because until we rein in spending $9 billion in Minnesota, at least in wasted fraud, hundreds of millions, if not billions, in California in wasted Medicaid and Medicare fraud. Stop spending, stop wasting, and most of our problems will go away without having to raise taxes on anybody. We do not have a taxing problem. We do not need to take 5% of the wealth, I'll get to that in a second, the wealth of rich people to pay for these programs. We need to stop spending like we are drunken sailors on shore leave. And Ro Khan, I am going to hit him twice. Say that again?
No offense, Andrew.
Yeah, right. No, my dad was a sailor. No offense meant. He got into a fight with Mark Cuban and basically said, if you have a company and your wealth on paper says X and you don't have the 5% wealth tax to pay, we'll give you a loan in exchange for stocks. And if you can't pay back that loan, we're going to sell your stocks.
No.
Okay.
Because it's just it. They won't even sell the stocks. You know what they'll do? They'll let them take another loan for another 5% of their stocks. And they'll let them take another loan for another 5% of their stocks until they get 51%. And then they're going to be like, it's ours now, bitch.
Yep, exactly. And coming from this guy who is worth like $300 million, whose kids own golf courses, no. And I'm like, this guy, we need to watch this guy because he's making moves to be the president, and he's like the big names right now, AOC, Kamala, the guy in Kentucky whose name I'm blanking on, Andy Bashir, they're not going to be the nominee. It could very well be a guy like Kahana who came out today and said, Medicare for all is going to save us lots of money. It's going to save 114,000 lives a year because a Yale study said so. Yeah, and Obamacare was supposed to save us $2,500 a year.
Oh,
and we could keep our doctor.
Keep your doctor and your plan. If you liked your plan and your doctor, you were supposed to get to keep those. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Sure. That was all a lie, as is this. As I have written about, at a minimum, the payroll tax will have to go up to 32%, and the federal tax rate will have to double to pay for Medicare for all. You think your premiums and your deductibles are expensive? You ain't seen nothing yet. Wait until the government comes in and takes half your income to pay for free healthcare, and then turns around and says, Amy, you are a white American. You don't get to go see the doctor for your cancer because Miguel here, who walked across the border 6 seconds ago, gets in front of you first. Because we all know that's coming. So no.
Oh no, it'll be even worse than that. It's like, not only are you a white female American, but you write for a conservative news outlet. So as far as we're concerned, you're never going to get to see a doctor again. We're just going to wait for your kind to die.
Right, exactly. And they are going to do that. They are going to weaponize Medicare for all against people like me, people like you, and the people listening to this program because we don't toe the line. Because as we saw with COVID, where they said all this time, education is a right. You have a right to education. You have a right to education. Then they shut down the schools for 6, 7, 8 months and wanted to shut them down longer. Healthcare is a right. Healthcare is a right. Unless you don't get a vaccine and do what we tell you to do, then we're going to let you die.
And now, that's the other thing. Imagine how much harder it would have been, and how much harder it will be for the next pandemic. Now that they're mRNA vaccinating every vaccine that comes out now is an mRNA vaccine. Right.
And I will not get an mRNA vaccine after what I've seen.
Well, that's just it. sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's just it. The whole thing with these things is it was supposed to be this little bit of code that was supposed to go in and do one thing and then die off and go out of your system. They're discovering that isn't what's happening. And in some cases, that little coding gets attached to something else, like say a cancer cell, and suddenly the coding is going nuts, and there's all kinds of things going on in your body that nobody can understand anymore. Like I know people that ever since they got COVID, when they like even get a scratch and they start, the whole scabbing process, it's crystals now. There's actual crystal stuff coming out where the scab stuff used to be. That is not normal. And they're like, yeah, my doctor doesn't really know what to do about it either.
No,
like, oh, okay.
No, I will never get another mRNA vaccine, and I will encourage the rest of you to not get an mRNA vaccine. I'm not by any stretch anti-vax. My kids are all vaccinated for everything when they were little, except they didn't get the COVID vaccine. I won't get the COVID vaccine. The next pandemic, I'm not going to comply with your masking regulations, with your stupid little arrows in the grocery store, with your stay home for 2 weeks because we want to flatten the curve. And I don't think I'm alone on that. I think there will be full-blown rebellion. More thunder.
Well, if we don't have Medicaid for all by then, there will be, because if we have Medicaid for all by then, you're just gonna have to do whatever they tell you to do. You're not gonna get
that's why we have the Second Amendment.
Right.
Like honestly, I'm not even being hypothetical. Like the Second Amendment was made for situations like this, where the government decides it's going to overstep its bounds. And I know Joe Biden and I think Eric Swalwell was one of them, said, well, we've got fighter jets and planes. Okay. You're really saying you're going to use those against Americans? Good luck with those optics.
That's not a good look. That's not a good look.
Right, exactly. So no, and it should, like, that's why guys like Fauci needed to be held responsible and accountable, because we need to restore that public trust and say what happened during COVID will never happen again. We didn't do that. Instead, we are going to, we being the Democrats and the left, are going to protect Fauci and not learn a damn thing from the mistakes of COVID, so that when we do have a pandemic and everybody goes, no, we're not doing this, they're going to go, why aren't you listening to us? You don't care and you want everybody to die. No, we just have seen this before and you're not doing it again.
Yeah,
like you said with the foreign policy, so short-sighted. Same thing with public health.
I mean, it is. I mean, and it's not with, it's not just the Republicans, but it is for the most part, because a lot of these things that have been happening with the Democrats, they have been working towards and pushing for over 100 years. And it's like, as soon as they get their hands back on the levers, they start pushing and doing the same things. And now they're not even hiding the fact that about 80% of the Democrats, as far as anybody's concerned, might as well be socialists. One of the stories that I thought was amazing today, because when it first started breaking, everybody was trying to make it sound like it was going to be a negative, was DeSantis passing education reform in Florida in, I guess it was 2024. And those new guidelines have officially taken effect this year. So starting in 6th grade, they're going to start teaching kids about communism again, and not as the end all be all and best thing ever, but actually explaining, why Russia was dangerous, why Cuba sucked, why socialism is terrible. And it's going to start in the 6th grade. That needs to be something that gets brought back to the forefront again, because we have way too many people in this country that have been indoctrinated by educators who think that people like Che Guevara are heroes. That's just so wrong on so many levels. We have people that think, so USSR might have been terrible, but the first few years was awesome. Really? Was it? Because like 6 million people died in those first 3 years of that handoff. How great was that for those 6 million people? Well, the people that were left were better off. Yeah, so you're fine with culling the population to make everybody's life easier, which is why you think Medicare for all is a great idea, why you think Made in Canada is awesome, even though, I think it was either last week or the week before, we were talking about that, 87-year-old woman who kept telling them, no, I do not believe in this, and no, I'm not going to use this. I'm just going to, once I go. And then as soon as their caregiver got out of town, they browbeat her to death until somebody stuck a needle in her arm. And again, not to be just, completely maudlin about it, but the only bright side is since she kept saying no and they did it anyway, she doesn't have to worry about explaining to Jesus that she wasn't trying to commit suicide because they're going to know that, hey, they killed you, so it's fine.
Yep.
It's fine for you. Probably not going to be very fine for them in front of us.
And remember, the people who are saying all of this about communism and the millions of people that they killed, the Democratic Socialists of America, who are literally Maoists, are also the same people who would say Israel is committing a genocide, and that's wrong. Ooh, it just started pouring. I'm on edge because a couple of days ago we were supposed to get rain. It wasn't anything big, and then it was after work. I was playing my video game. My son comes in and goes, "Mom, the tornado sirens are going off," and we live in a mobile home. Like,
oh boy,
I'm screaming, kill me when the weather gets bad. So we actually went across the street to the gas station and we hung out there for half an hour, 45 minutes until the storms blew past because there were straight line winds. Like my son took a picture of the big scoreboard at Miller Park because he was at the ball game that said there's a tornado warning. We're keeping an eye on things, don't leave the stadium, kind of see, we'll be safe. You're all right. But it came up like that. Like there was no warning. There was no advance. Like, hey, the storms might be bad. It was just, you're going to get rain. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, it's a tornado. So every time I get a little anxious because I have kids to protect and, I live in a tin can on wheels basically. So, but I don't think this one is going to be that bad, but if the sirens go off or whatever, you will know. I will say goodbye and bail on out like we did the other day. So
another little interesting quick hit before I move into the last major thing that I really wanted to talk about. The whole beef story that broke last day or so, where they've decided to remove the tariff restrictions and bring a lot of new beef in because we don't have enough. I thought it was interesting that one of the things I heard Trump talking about was trying to ensure that these things were sold about 25% below market value. Am I the only one that gets nervous when everybody starts talking about price controls?
No, you're not, because price controls are a disastrous idea that is going to cause problems. Just by increasing the supply of beef, the price will go down because demand probably isn't going to change that much. Let the market, this is the same dynamic pricing bullshit that Elizabeth Warren was complaining about the other day, where when it's cold out, they charge more for tea. When it's hot out, they charge more for ice cream. That's literally like happy hour.
That's how supply side economics work.
Right. That's you buy an airplane. I buy an airplane ticket for October now. It's probably going to be less than if I waited until the day before I fly.
Yeah, but I was like, oh God, now even he's talking about price controls.
Right. And
now, granted, this is a single instance of it, but I'm still like, when the guy who's supposed to be, the free market guy is like, oh, we're going to make sure that these things get sold at 25% below market value. If you bring enough in, it's probably going to go lower than that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because part of the reason why beef prices have been so high is the same thing that happened with the eggs. They had to do a lot of culling for whatever reason. I mean, with the eggs, it was dumb. They should have just let it run its course and been done with it. But.
Yep. Yeah. Well, they're doing something similar in New York now, where they're running these government grocery stores that are going to sell the basket of goods. I hate that term. It's such a socialist term, for 30% less than market value. But now all these businesses, including several that are suing the Mamdani administration, some official said, oh no, if you guys are struggling, we'll subsidize you.
Yeah, I saw that.
Can you see the wheels turning? Is like why that doesn't make sense? You're literally driving them out of business, and now you're going to spend more money to keep them in business because you're driving them out of business.
So you're going to use tax money to make sure people get a 30% cut in their groceries, then turn around to help subsidize the same people that you're complaining about because everybody needs a 30% cut in groceries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is exactly what happens in government, though. They create a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening. Then they step in to tell you they're going to fix the problem. And by the time they're done, the problem they stepped in to fix is twice as bad as it was before they stepped in to try to fix it. Look at what happened with our freaking higher institutions of learning. They have
Mhm.
all turned into communist dens of BS and
Mhm.
Islamo-fascist factories and everything else.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just nuts to me because look, I get it. Reagan kind of mixed bag as you get older, but one of his best lines ever was the scariest 13 words in the English language are I'm from the government and I'm here to help. I think it was 13.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. Because it's not wrong. Every
Mhm.
time they tell you they're gonna help you with something, they make it worse. And there's a reason they make it worse because if the government and this is part of the problem because it is now a full-time career. They have really good salaries, they have really good benefits, and not only that, you hang around long enough, even if you suck, you get to keep the benefits for the rest of your life. That's why Nancy May punched out when she did because she was eligible for full retirement like
Mhm.
3 days before she punched out. She's like, "Yep."
Marjorie Taylor Greene did the same thing. She waited until she was vested, and then she went bye-bye, which, don't get me wrong, I don't miss either of them.
You
But
know, I mean, and honestly, for them, it was smart, but we need to
Mhm.
stop incentivizing this kind of stuff. We
Mhm.
need to
Yeah.
get back to making these people understand that they are public servants, not that because that's the thing. At some point, we started calling these people our leaders. They're not supposed to be the leaders. We're supposed to be the leaders.
Mhm.
They're supposed to be going there to do the things that we tell them we
Mhm.
want them to do, and the
Mhm.
problem is because they're now so insulated, and they almost never see their constituency, and they're more beholden to big corporations and lobbyists and everything else, they don't care about me and you anymore, because now it takes millions and millions and millions of dollars to get elected into office, instead of
Mhm.
it being, poster boards and things like that, and it can be a guy who runs an
Mhm.
no mom and pop electronic shop that gets elected to office and then still
Mhm.
runs that and then only goes in like Andrew said.
Mhm.
Back in the day, it was every 2 years because it took so
Mhm.
long to get from DC to everywhere else, and most of the time, they were still with their constituency. I'm gonna say this, not only am I so
Mhm.
I'm a fan of one of 2 options. We either move the capital to the geographic center so that we can start dismantling all the BS that they've
Mhm.
built up in their little bubbles and fiefdoms, or we start using technology to allow them to do their voting and stuff from inside of their districts and inside of their states so that they have to see the people that they're screwing over every single day. Because I
Mhm.
guarantee you a lot of them wouldn't be able to do it if they were having to look these people in the eye every single day. About half of them, I guarantee you, would do it, smile, shake your hand, and be like, "Yeah, I'm working for you," as they're counting money as soon as you are out of their
Mhm.
eye
Mhm.
eye line. But there are people that wouldn't be able to do that. And the thing about it is, I get it because I've had the same argument with everybody else. Because if we cut their salaries, then they're going to be more beholden to the lobbyists. No, they won't, because
Mhm.
the next thing we need to do, we need to make lobbying a
Mhm.
crime.
Mhm.
Because lobbying is not a valid profession. I'm sorry, it's not. It's
No,
just
it's
not.
not. Right.
This is basically the 20 late 20th, early 21st century version of snake oil salesman.
Mhm.
It was bad when it was done before. It's just as bad now, and it's just people that are getting paid to bend other people's ears to get the money in the right pockets and the spigots flowing in the right directions, and
Mhm.
that's one of the biggest things that drives me the most crazy about our political system, because the only thing that ever really changes, depending on who's in charge, is which way the money spigots point.
Mhm.
Everything else basically stays the same. Case in point, Donald Trump has had about 16 different potentials within the last 18 or so months to be able to do recess appointments. The head of the Senate, who's supposed to be part of his party, is
Mhm.
gabbling in pro forma sessions just to make sure that he can't do that. Why? What purpose does that serve? Why are you not working with the guy who's not only the commander in chief, not only
Mhm.
your direct boss, whether you like it or not, but also the head of your party right now?
Mhm. Right.
What happened? What happened?
What happened? Oh, Fred. Oh, no, I'm blanking on his last name. Fred, not Willard. Is it Fred Willard? He was in the A Mighty Wind and Waiting for Guffman and all of those movies. And he
Hmm.
was the dad on ah, Modern Family. It was Fred Willard. I did
Yeah,
remember him. I
I
loved
thought it was
him.
right.
Yeah, but it didn't sound like in my head. It didn't sound right. He was brilliant. He was so funny. Um, no, you're absolutely right.
All right, so I do have my final contribution for the day because I thought this one was absolutely glorious when I saw it pop up on my screen. And I don't know if anybody else has heard about this yet, but everybody's favorite newspaper just lost a major defamation case.
I saw that. Yes.
Yeah, so the Gray Lady, now commonly referred to as the New York Slimes, has reportedly lost a defamation case and was ordered to pay more than $9 million to a basketball player. Wonder which basketball player. Oh, and they're kind of in the same vein. I don't remember which outlet he works for because I think it was I think it was the Seattle Times. I think
it was the Seattle Times. I know who you're talking about.
The dude that resigned because they kept spiking his stories about the WNBA and how he thinks it's awesome that they have women trying to stand up for other women. Yeah, he's like, nope, not doing it anymore. I quit. Yep. Dude needs to hang his own shingle and just make bucks because he will. I promise.
Yeah, some outlet will pick this guy up because he at least has integrity, which is a rarity in mainstream media. And good for him for standing up for what he believes in.
All right, so that is the end of my contributions because since I've been working on this damn machine all week, I still haven't been able to start writing again like I had planned on. So what do you got for us on the way out the door?
Okay, my favorite story of the week was the one out of the UK who, after years of letting migrants in who rape and assault women, including late last year, 2 Afghan nationals who raped a 15-year-old went to court and said, "We're not used to a country that lets women be human beings. That's why we raped her." The UK has decided that they are going to start giving immigrants and asylum seekers a pamphlet explaining that women actually are human beings who have rights. And no, you can't rape them without, you can't have sex with them without their consent. That's called rape. It literally says, let me see if I can find, because I wrote it here. In the UK, men and women have equal rights. This is an important part of UK culture and is protected by law. Women can work and earn their own money, study and go to school or university, travel freely, choose who they marry or choose not to marry, make decisions about their lives. Women do not need permission from a husband, father, brother, or any other man to do any of these things. Men and women are treated equally by the law, by employers, by schools, and by services like hospitals and the police. It is against the law to treat someone unfairly because of their gender. And then it goes on to talk about sex and consent. Consent means both people freely agree to sex or sexual contact. In the UK, the law is clear and strict. Both people must agree to sex or sexual contact of any kind. This means both people must say yes freely without threat or pressure. Someone can change their mind at any time, even if they have said yes before. And if someone is asleep, drunk, or unable to respond, they cannot consent. Okay, awesome. You just gave these guys a booklet and they are going to throw it in the Thames as soon as they walk away from you. And the reason I know that the UK is not serious about this is because they have yet to deport a single person who has raped. The grooming gang members, they aren't getting deported. And there was a story in the Daily Mail that I wrote about too. 2 Afghan migrants, noticing a pattern here, went to a park, came across a couple on their first date, held the man at knife point, raped the woman. They are not being deported. So the UK isn't serious about this. They are going to keep letting these guys come in, keep letting them rape women. And I'm telling you now, the solution is going to be eventually they're going to mandate that women start wearing the hijab. They're going to start rolling back women's rights. And the 6,000-pound elephant in the room that nobody is addressing is this. What happens when the Muslims become the majority in the UK and start passing laws that actually do restrict women's rights?
Yeah.
I mean, that imam I've written about in Germany who said, as soon as we can pass Sharia, we're going to start stoning adulterous women. They're going to do the same thing in the UK.
I mean, they already have Sharia councils popping up. There was a dude I figured out was from England all up in politics the other day. I'm like, why the hell are you even talking with us about this? We already kicked your ass in 1776. We kicked your ass again in 1812. Are you trying for best 3 out of 5? He's like, well, you had intelligent leaders back then. I'm like, well, since since London has basically become a Muslim enclave, all I'm going to say about that is glass houses and stones, my friend. And then he kept trying, well, London's not, we have the same Muslim population as New York City. And I'm like, yeah, with how many people are in London versus how many people in New York City right now? I guarantee those numbers don't match. Also, exactly. What was the in 2025? Want to take a guess on what the number one boy's name in London and Wales was?
Oh, it's Muhammad.
Yeah, it's been number one since 2023.
Muhammad.
2023, 2024, 2025. Mohammed.
Yep.
Yeah, almost 6,000 births in 2025 that were given the name Mohammed.
Yep.
Not to mention the fact that there are depending on which outlet you want to believe, anywhere between 35 to 85 Muslim councils, otherwise known as Sharia courts, in the London in the England, Wales area.
Yep. And here in the United States, we have multiple municipalities and federal programs that offer Sharia compliant financial products. It's coming unless we do something about it. And I am raising the red flag, sounding the alarm, because I refuse to wear a hijab. I refuse to live under Sharia law, and I won't let my kids and grandkids do that either. You guys want Sharia compliant anything? Go back home. Go to Mecca. Bye.
About the only thing I agree with the Muslims on is how it should be illegal to charge interest. I do it.
Right.
That's not the only thing I agree with.
Right, but then in the financial world, those costs get passed on to every other lender or borrower who is not a Muslim, and that is a bunch of bullshit. You want to live in a place where we don't do that? I will help you pack. I will help buy you a plane ticket. Go away.
All right. So where can folks find you, ma'am?
You can find me on Twitter at Ranty Amy Curtis, also over at townhall.com, where I write a ton of stuff every week. And then you go to Amazon.com or the QR code in the upper corner for Gaslight, my book, How the Democrat Party Lost Its Mind to Radical Leftism and Abuses Voters in the Process. I actually have a copy sitting on my bed. I've got to send it to somebody I made a connection with. So
nice. So I have to ask,
things are moving on that front.
I have to ask the same question I usually ask it this week every time. How exactly does one lose something they've never possessed?
That is true. Well, there was a time many, many years ago, like when my grandparents were blue-collar Democrat voters, where the Democrats were not great, but tolerable. At least they didn't openly hate America and Americans. And now we've got full-blown socialists who want to destroy everything. Like my grandparents would have a stroke if they saw what the Democratic Party had become these days. Like they would absolutely lose their mind. And then I had to laugh because my son popped in. They know I do this show every Friday, and he had to come in and give me cookies because I apparently needed cookies. So when we get off the air, I'm going to eat those too.
He heard your voice go up, but he thought you were getting cranky. He wanted to give you cookies.
Yeah, here, be nice, Mom. Here's chocolate. Don't snap at us. Okay.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for hanging out with me today. Hopefully, BZ or Brad or both of them will be back with us next week. Don't forget to hang out. Yeah, and don't forget coming back here at 8:30 tonight Eastern time, otherwise known as Aggie time. We are doing He Said, She Said. I know it's been a weird schedule for me this week, but I am getting back into the swing of things. But you can find me at RowdyRick73 on X. You can follow along with everything that we do at KLR Radio on X, YouTube, and Facebook. You can also find us on Rumble, but you have to search America's Podcast Network there because for some reason they didn't like KLR Radio. That's going to do it for us for today. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of your weekend. And just my recommendation, tune in anytime we're on. Other than that, get your news from where else you want to get it. But make sure you're taking at least 30 minutes to an hour a day and going out and touching grass and unplugging. Because if you don't, things are gonna get you down, man. It's that crazy right now. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be saying it, but I keep hearing it from more and more people. So yeah, And for all of you folks that are anti data center, if you are and you're on the internet, you suck.
Bye.